channels can be used.
Denied.
Denied, that's what he said. Or refused, yeah.
You mean, yeah,
We're just doing it there.
yeah. Can I answer?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. In fact, as I said, our duty is to present the report, to make it publicly. Of course, the first interlocutor normally is the government, but we also are presenting this report to the media, to the civil society, to all the Zimbabwean people. So let's say that this is something that I think the whole Zimbabwe somehow will receive. As I say that, and I reiterate that aspect is going to be published as soon as this press conference is going to end. Then, of course, it's up to the Zimbabwean government to decide if you want to follow the recommendation we express, and if you want to engage with the European Union that is ready to provide cooperation, technical assistance on the recommendation as well. But of course, this is a matter of political will, and this is a free choice of the authorities. If we are requested, we are ready, we are willing to assist, but we cannot, of course, decide for the authorities. But I think also, in light of the important remarks I shared with you, that it's also a possibility, if it's decided in the sense for the media, for the civil society to campaign in favor of these reforms, if you share, of course, the reasonment, the motivation, the analysis we are going to present in the report. So I warmly recommend all of you to write that very carefully, to have a clear view, and because we assessed all single phases of the process before, during, and after the election day, always following very meticulously our methodology and our code of conduct in every single action and phase we have done. I hope I addressed and I answered to your question.
Can I also add that the recommendations that we make are long-term recommendations throughout the election cycle, and they're also geared to a variety of interlocutors. And so some of those recommendations are to the state authorities, of course, but then there are also recommendations that are made to civil society, to the media, to other interlocutors. And so over the period of the next 3, 4, 5 years, many of these recommendations can be brought to life if there is the will, as Mr. Castaldo had said, but also if there are initiatives amongst different interlocutors who are all addressed in this report.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. It's,
my name is Admaya Masubu. I'm a freelance journalist. I want to understand to what extent did this information affect the quality of the elections and the participation of women? Did your report maybe dwell on that particular issue?
Yes.
Yes, so we in fact on the mission looked at all aspects of the election process from a long-term perspective. We had both a social media analyst who conducted a full-scale social media monitoring effort. We also had a human rights analyst who looked specifically at the inclusion of underrepresented populations, including women. And so if you look at the report, there are recommendations also made towards the participation of women in the process, and also the extent that disinformation played into the way that women were able to participate in the election process. I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but if you look in the final report in the full body, you will be able to find the details of those findings.
I'd like also to add that during our conversations and our exchange with many interlocutors, most of them, they were underlined the reforms on that introduced quotas for women somehow was also seen as a kind of reduction of the space of participation for the ordinary constituency, in the sense that if you look at the numbers and the statistics in the previous electoral elections, urbanized election, there was more participation of women in the ordinary constituency. I would say the directly electing one, and of course this give the feeling somehow that despite maybe the noble intent to ensure that a certain quota within the parliament, this is also a bit maybe reducing the space for them to compete equally fairly with the male candidates in the normal constituency. And a similar also consideration was sometimes raised about the youth.
My name is Anastasia Ndlovu. I'm in Bulawayo. I would like you to tell us were the elections free and fair and credible?
Thank you for the question. I would like to remind you that it is not our job nor our commitment to give any certification of the elections. We cannot, of course, declare something like you asked, nor in a sense, nor in another. Our job is to follow and to, of course, observe all the different phases of the process, and then to say if they comply or they do not comply with the regional and international standards. And in that case, I could say, as we reiterated many times during our preliminary statement, and even today, that in several cases, the shortfall, they were not exactly complying with the regional and international standards. So there was, especially because many rights have been curtailed during the campaign, even during the election day itself. You are from Bulawayo, so probably you witnessed the fact that many police stations were opening with a very significant delay. So this is the kind of analysis and assessment we are holding.
Okay. My other question is, we noted that you withdrew funding for elections in Zimbabwe. When are you likely to fund elections again, because we are having by-elections?
So the funding was withdrawn from the European Union, and with by-elections coming, when are they likely to refund?
Well, let me say that the decision of freezing the financial cooperation and the technical cooperation was taken by the EU delegation on the ground, according to the fact that, as I denounced, there was a lack of cooperation by the competent authorities. As I told you, I have a long-lasting experience as electoral observer and as a chief observer, and it never happened in my experience, in my career, to not being received by the competent electoral commission or anyway by the electoral body that is organizing the election on account. That was a clear sign of lack of political will, because as I repeat, many other chief observers, other missions have been received even several times. And that was a bit surprising me, because we didn't come by ourselves. We came and we deployed the mission under the invitation of the Zimbabwe government that freely decided to do that, and with an administrative arrangement that was regulating all the aspects of our presence on the ground, including the fact that we were entitled to have full support by the competent authorities to provide us all the data, to provide us all the information, to have a constant exchange. So, of course, having observed that the EU delegation decided to proceed in this way, at this point, I cannot tell you if at some moment that there will be a decision again to relaunch a cooperation. I would say that everything is in the hand also of the competent authorities. If we will see positive signs, a change of approach, probably there could be the possibility to reconsider that, but it is not my duty to express any other analysis and decision in that regard, because I am the chief observer for our electoral mission, and this is a political decision that is going to be held by the EU delegation and our external action service. So all the authorities that have the duty and the right to do that.
And if I could just add that this, as Mr. Castaldo says, is outside of the remit of the EOM, but there are recommendations about key aspects of ZEC, such as their independence, their ability to work impartially, and these are the kinds of recommendations that one would expect to be worked on in the future. And in the implementation of these recommendations, the EU would stand ready to assist.
Okay, thank you on that one. My final question is on, as we are having by-elections, is EU going to observe the by-elections in Zimbabwe, or you are not coming?
Normally, we do not observe by-elections. So of course, the mission now, as I said, is ending up with this work, with the presentation of this final report. But I'm pretty sure that our competent authorities, and including for the External Action Service, will continue to be engaged and to have, of course, follow what are the further political developments in the country. But this is out of the scope of the election to continue to assess the by-election after, because our mandate is going to end with the presentation of the final report and the recommendations.
We have one more question, and then we will answer a couple of questions that arrived through the chat.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. We are very well, thank you. What about you?
Yes, my name is Marshall Bonya. I am a reporter for ZimLife. I have a few questions that I want to ask. My first question would be, if your recommendations cannot determine if elections were free and fair based on your methodology, what use is it to Zimbabwe as a nation in our plight to grow as a democratic nation? Then my second question would be, how can citizens of the civil society contribute to ongoing efforts to address the issues raised in your report, given the current reports of human rights violations that are said to persist with impunity? And my third question would be, has your mission observed any positive changes or improvements in subsequent elections since this current election that has been discredited in your preliminary report? And my final question would be, how will your mission's findings and recommendations be disseminated to the international community, local stakeholders, and the general public to ensure transparency and accountability?
Okay, so for the first one,
Society, the first one was
on free and fair recommendations.
free and fair recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And the third,
The third I don't remember.
and the fourth.
And the fourth was on what was the fourth? Let's start with the first one and then we can ask to repeat.
Yeah, let's start. Maybe we will kindly ask you to repeat question by question, because of course we are not in presence and sometimes some words could not be easy to be heard. You ask for again for evaluation for a free and fair election process. I will reiterate again once more that we do not do this kind of assessment. It's out of the scope of our mission. We can only observe and check if what we are seeing on the ground, and it was a massive effort from our side with 150 observers that deployed all around the country in each one of the single region of Zimbabwe, not simply the most prominent urban center, but also even the rural area in the most remote area of the country, to get as much data as possible, to have a clear vision of the growth process, and then to be able to assess if they are respecting or not the regional and international standards. And I do reiterate once more, of course, that this is something that in some significant cases we see did not happen.